Lesson 4, I will multiply by 10, 100, and 1000 in arrays and numerically. So we are going to go ahead and talk about how we can multiply by 10, 100, and 1000 just like you did in your Zern lesson. All right, so let's start with our problem set. I want you to go ahead and put your name on there, and let's take a look at the example. So for the example, we had 5 times 10, which was 5 ones times 10, which equaled 5 tens, or 50. So we're going to do a little bit of this modeling, and then we're going to do some unit form and some standard form. So we're going to draw a place value disk and arrows to represent each product. So we're beginning with 5 times 100. So I'm going to start with 5 ones. Okay, so here's my 5 ones, and notice how I did that in a nice organized fashion. I'm going to go ahead and group these together. Now, 5 times 100 is the same thing as 5 times 10, which gives me 5 tens, and then times 10 again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I ended up with 5 times 10 times 10, which is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hundredths. So I've got 5 hundredths, which is 5 times 10 times 10, which was 500. 5 ones times 100 was 5 hundredths. And you can abbreviate your hundreds right here. Okay, we know 10 tens is equal to 100. Okay, I also could have just gone straight from the ones to the hundreds, and that would have been times 10 also. And we're going to do a little bit of that too. All right, so let's take a look at 5 times 1,000. So we're going to start with our 5 ones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you feel pretty confident about multiplying 5 times 1,000, go ahead and pause the video and do it by yourself. If you'd like to stay with me and do it with me, I'll go ahead and walk you through it. All right, so we've got 5 times 10 times 10 times 10, because 5 times 10 times 10 is 5 times 100, and 10 100ths is 1,000. So we're going to multiply by 10 3 times. So this is 1 time. And then we're going to multiply times 10 again. And then we're going to multiply by 10 again. So I ended up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,000. So 5 times 1,000 is equal to 5,000. 5 times 10 times 10 times 10 is equal to 5,000. 5 ones times 1,000 is equal to 5 thousands. And again, it's okay to abbreviate. All right, so now we're going to move away from this model and think about the patterns that we're seeing. Okay, so we're going to start with all the problems that end with the equal sign at the end, because I find that sometimes that's a little bit harder for kids, okay? So I know it goes A, B, C, but we're going to do like this. We're going to do A first, and then I want you to do D, and then I want you to do G, and I want you to do H. And H is no different than these, except they put the equal first. So this is the same thing as 10 times 9 equals blank. I want you to pause the video and do these 4 that I've starred for all by yourself. If you feel confident, do the rest too if you want to. But if you feel a little not quite so sure and you only want to do these 4, try these 4. Let's go ahead and pause the video and see what you come up with. Okay, so let's take a look at 6 times 10. So 6 times 10 means I have 6 ones and I multiply it by 10, so that's going to give me 6 tens, or 60. Same thing for 10 times 4. That means I have 4 times 10, so I'm going to take those 4 ones and drag them to the tens place, and that gives me 4 tens, or 40. For G, I had 9 times 1,000. So that meant that I had 9 ones, and I multiplied them times 10, times 10, times 10, which gives me 9 thousands, or 9,000. And then for this one, it was the same problem as A and D, it was just turned around backwards. So I had 9 times 10, which was equal to 90. All right, now let's take a look at these other problems. All right, so this one I have something times 6 gives me 6 hundredths. So I have 6 times something. So what do you think I'd have to multiply 6 times to get 600ths? Well, I moved it 2 place values. So that would be 10 times 10, which would be equal to 100. All right, so let's think about this one. So this is the same problem, it's just written backwards. So I've got blank times 1,000 equals 6,000. Okay, so I have something. It's going to start here, and I'm going to multiply it. I'm going to drag it all the way over to here. So how many ones would I multiply by 1,000 to end up with 6,000s? Well, there had to be 6, right? So this will be 6 times 1,000 equals 6,000. I want you to try to do E, F, and I all by yourself, and let's see if we get the same answers. Okay, so let's take a look at E, and we had 4 times something equals 400. Well, I knew that I had to multiply 4 times 100 if I was going to end up with 400s. I had to drag it 2 place values, which meant I multiplied it times 10 twice, which was equal to 100. All right, so let's take a look at F. So again, I had 4 ones, and I was dragging it all the way to the thousands place. So that meant that I multiplied it times 1,000. And then for I had 9 hundreds, so I knew that I had to start with 9 ones and multiply them times 100 to end up with 9 hundredths. All right, let's look on the back. So now we're going to do things a little bit differently. We have a 2-digit number. I have 12 times 10. So that's going to be 1 10 and 2 ones. And I'm going to multiply these times 10. So I'm going to group these together and multiply it times 10. And you notice that 10 times 10 gives me 100. 2 ones times 10 gives me 2 tens. So now I have 100, 2 tens, no ones. So 12 times 10 is equal to 120, or 102 tens. And again, it's okay if you abbreviate. If you feel pretty confident and you'd like to do number 5 by yourself, go ahead. If you'd like to stay with me and do it with me, then just stay with me and we'll just walk through number 5 together. All right, so for number 5, we have 18 times 100. So that would be 110 and 8 ones. Now notice when I do my ones, I like to put these into groups of 5, just like they do in Zern, because I think it's so easy to just say 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, so this time I'm multiplying times 100. So I could do 10 times 10, but I know 10 times 10 is 100, so I'm just going to go right straight across and say times 100. And this 110 times 100 gives me 1,000. Now I'm going to take these 8 ones, and I'm going to multiply them times 100, which means I'm going to drag them 2 place values over. And now I'm going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 hundredths. Okay, so I've got 1,800. So I've got 1,800. So 18 times 10 times 10 is equal to 1,800. 110, 8 ones times 100 gives me 1,800. And again, it's okay to abbreviate. Okay? All right, so I'd like for you to try to do number 6 all by yourself. I know you can do it. If you get stuck, press play and you can do it with me. Okay, so I had 25 times 1,000. So 25 is going to be 2 tens and 5 ones. So I've got 2 tens and 5 ones. I knew if I was going to multiply by 1,000, that was the same thing as times 10 times 10 times 10. So I just drug it over 3 place values. So 2 tens times 1,000 gives me 2 10,000s. And I did the same thing with my 5 ones. I drug it over 2 place values. So 5 ones times 1,000 gives me 5,000s. So now I have 2 10,000s, 5,000s, no hundreds, tens, or ones. So 25 times 1,000 gives me 25,000, or 25,000 which is the same thing as 2 tens and 5 ones times 1,000, which gives me 2 10,000s, 5 thousands. Okay, now we're going to move away from the model and we're going to just look at some number sentences, okay? So we're going to decompose each multiple of 10, 100, or 1,000 by multiplying. So you can see here that I've got 3 times 40. Well, 40 is the same thing as 4 times 10. So now we've got 3 times 4 times 10. Well, I can go ahead and multiply 3 times 4 together, and that gives me 12 times 10, which gives me 12 tens, or 120. Let's do one more together. So I've got 3 times 200. Well, 200 is the same thing as 2 times 100. So I'm going to go ahead and multiply the 3 times 2 together, and that gives me 6 times 100. And 6 times 100 is equal to 600. Okay? I'd like for you to try to do 9 and 10 all by yourself. I'm going to go ahead and do them too, and let's come back together and see if we get the same answer. Okay, so let's take a look at 4 times 4,000. So 4 times 4,000 is the same thing as 4 times 4 times 1,000, because 4 times 1,000 is the same thing as 4,000. Now I'm going to go ahead and put the 4 times 4 together, which gives me 16 times 1,000, which gives me 16,000. Okay, let's take a look at number 10. So now I've got 5 times 4,000, which is the same thing as 5 times 4 times 1,000. I went ahead and multiplied 5 times 4 together, which gave me 20 times 1,000, which gives me 20,000. So in this lesson, we multiplied by 10, 100, and 1,000. And you're going to get an opportunity to do this too whenever you're doing your exit ticket. Remember, if this is confusing to you, you could always draw a place value chart, and you could start with 5 ones, and you could multiply it times 4, which will give you this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So now we've got 5 4 times. And if I multiply that times 1,000, I would drag it to the thousands place, and that would give me 20 thousands. And I could decompose those, or I could bundle them, and I would have 2 10,000s, which is the same thing as 20,000. So remember, if the number sentence ever gives you any kind of confusion, you can always draw a picture to go along with it.